as of today, all musicians that are performing on television, regardless of what format, are receiving 0% residuals for streaming.
That's my friend Ian Hendrickson-Smith, a great saxophone player who works on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, playing with The Roots. Here's a clip from that show you've probably seen.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, mother. Up.
$60 million monetized views and counting on YouTube alone. And yes, the musicians featured in that video get 0% of the millions of dollars in ad revenue generated on streaming platforms.
I'm not sure exactly when it was, but when streaming became the viable change of medium, the different guilds got together and negotiated new contracts to get people paid. So the Writers Guild and the Producers Directors Guild negotiated 5% for streaming residuals moving forward. Unfortunately, the Musicians Union did not do that.
Right now, the musicians who work on TV shows like The Tonight Show, Jimmy Kimmel Live, Stephen Colbert, the Grammys, and many more are trying to negotiate a fair contract with the networks like NBC, ABC, and CBS. As it stands right now, the musicians are only paid for their live performance and residuals from the network broadcast. But if you're watching this on YouTube right now, you're probably aware that network broadcasts of TV shows are quickly becoming a thing of the past.
We've been in negotiations with the networks for, it's been quite a few years now, I think 5 years. We've been trying to work this out with them. And their stance has been, up until very recently, 0%, and they're sticking to that. Very recently, they offered us a very small percentage. I think it's 1/5 of what the writers and producers are getting, but that's only to house bands. So, the house band for Colbert, the house band for Jimmy Kimmel, the Tonight Show house band. They're offering 0% still to anyone that plays on the Grammys or does anything on television, any sort of TV commercial, anything that's streaming. So that includes YouTube or, any of the apps on Apple TV and that kind of business. So, it's a huge revenue stream that musicians are being left out of.
So this has been going on for a while. In an open letter to the networks, the TV musicians have outlined the very conspicuous disparities between their contract and the contract of the writers, actors, and producers. This infographic sums things up pretty well. In addition to getting paid far less and not receiving the same healthcare benefits, the TV musicians haven't even had a raise in the past 4 years, while the other guilds have been getting yearly pay increases.
There's another element to this whole thing, and it gets intense because it's there's a serious racial disparity between the musicians especially in late night bands being like the most heavily diverse group of people not getting paid, and you look at the situation with the writers and directors. I mean, it's like primarily white,
right?
And the musicians in these late night bands is primarily not white,
right?
And so that's something that needs to be addressed, and why that's happening.
Why would the networks offer a fair contract to the writers, actors, and producers while insisting that the musicians don't deserve any income at all from the tens of millions of dollars their content helps to generate in ad revenue on streaming platforms? Here's another clip featuring the house band of the Jimmy Kimmel Live show, along with the cast of the Avengers movies that you may have seen. Among the constant barrage of advertisements on YouTube alone, it's got almost 40 million monetized views.
So
I don't know about you, but I would feel pretty left out if everyone else performing in that clip was getting paid streaming residuals except myself and my fellow musicians. Here's another clip featuring the Stephen Colbert Show band in a skit with Bruce Willis.
And that's just YouTube,
Right.
Not even taking into account, the Peacock app on Apple TV, which is subscription and ads.
Right, yeah. Because
So, it adds up. Like, if you think about all the different ways that people consume, content these days, it adds up quick.
These are just a few examples of literally billions of monetized views, meaning there's paid advertising and or subscribers paying for access outside of the network broadcast. Surely all of the performers and content creators involved are entitled to some piece of that ad revenue, and why should the percentage for streaming be lower or zero as it is right now for musicians?
With cable, we were getting residuals. So we got our day rate for, whatever we're doing, whatever our contract states. And then we got residuals for European use, for advertising use. And then like about 2 years ago, those checks just stopped. And we were like, whoa, like with no notice, no discussion. And then all, the networks were like, well, we're switching to streaming. And we're changing the definition of cable TV. So like now, they just rewrote the rules basically. So all of a sudden we just stopped getting residuals, even from cable.
I'm not doing any union gigs these days, but when I lived in New York, I worked union jobs all the time. Nobody asked me to make this video, but I saw this issue come up in the social media feeds of some of my saxophone playing friends and colleagues, and I thought I could perhaps help get the word out. Because like me, I think most people are shocked when they learn that you could be doing one of the most coveted performance jobs in the world, yet still not qualify for health benefits or get any income from the streaming revenue.
So the Roots, as a whole, they have a healthcare fund that they deal with totally on their own, but they pay out of pocket for that.
right.
And then me and Dave get our health insurance through the union, but we pay for it.
Right.
So it is cheaper than like if I just went to a provider, but it's not much cheaper.
The only way this is going to change is if the networks agree to a fair contract with the musicians union. And as you know, public opinion has a huge influence on the behavior of these media companies. So some of the things you could do to help spread the word are share this video to your own social media accounts, send direct messages to the social media accounts of the networks. I'm writing to NBC right now to ask them why they think the musicians in their streaming content don't deserve any income whatsoever from their ad revenue. You can leave comments on some of those YouTube videos and the Instagram and Facebook posts. You can share the link to the open letter that I put in the description below and say, hey, I support the musicians that are in this streaming content, and I think they should get their fair share of the ad revenue generated by my clicks. You could also add the hashtag #RespectUs. You could encourage some other YouTubers like Rick Beato and Adam Neely, for example, to make a video on this topic, as I'm sure they could reach a much wider audience than me. No matter what job you do, you should always be negotiating for pay increases. Otherwise, you're just going to get paid less and less over time. In my 25-year career as a professional musician, I've pretty much seen pay go down across the board. Some gigs that I used to do back then are still paying the same dollar amount or less today. So while the cost of a drink in that bar or club that I worked at in 1996 may have gone up 50 to 60% by now, the musicians' pay, if they even still have musicians working there, has not even gone up with the rate of inflation and the cost of living. Right now, media is going through a huge transformation, and musicians desperately need to negotiate for their fair share if we want music to continue to exist as a viable profession. these days, public support on social media platforms carries a lot of weight. So I just hope this video can help raise awareness and build momentum for musicians' fight for fair compensation. Thanks for watching.
Man, I've just from a strictly nerd standpoint, man, I love your website, man. I love it, man. I'm like so all about it, man. I love this shit.
From a nerd standpoint, I love that.